stuff standing. We'll kind of play a little bit with like rooting and grounding, and then kind of think about ourselves blooming and blossoming, growing a little bit. So you could just come to the front of your mat or stand anywhere on your mat. You know, generally speaking, I like to do Tadasana with my feet a little wider than, you know, feet together, just lining up the ankles with the hip joints. So just kind of finding, you know, your footing, and then maybe imagining that your roots are nice and deep, you know, feeling that rootedness in your feet. But also now is the time to bud and bloom. So we're lengthening up through the crown of the head. And then just drop your arms down alongside the body, you know, letting your arms kind of hang. And if you're comfortable with it, you can close your eyes. So this pose is mountain pose. And I always thought, and I still kind of do, that mountain pose, in the sort of symbolism of mountain pose, is to be like this immovable force, right? Which always seemed kind of counterintuitive to me when I think about yoga being like go with the flow. So then I read something the other day, and it said that we should be climbing mountains instead of carrying them around with us. And I was like, oh, so that's a different way to look at mountains, right? So maybe we're carrying around a lot of weight and heaviness still from the winter. And so we can kind of drop those heavy mountains off of our shoulders or wherever we might be holding them, right? And just kind of stand, get ready to climb, right? Get ready to grow and kind of ascend, right? Bloom or blossom, whatever it might be. And then if you need to, or you like to, bring your hands together in front of your heart, or maybe you just like to put one hand on top of the other, and just take a moment to remember that quality of spring that you want to carry into the rest of the season and into the summer months, right? Whatever is going to help you to generate that quality while you're on your yoga mat. And maybe like planting a seed, and you nourish that seed for another couple of breaths. And then again, you can release your arms down, maybe flutter your eyelids if your eyes were closed. And then let's take a breath and just bring our arms out in front of us. So you could imagine that you're maybe holding a beach ball, and you're getting ready to pass this beach ball off to someone else, but they're a little too far away and you're not winding up to throw. You're trying to hand it off to them. So keep your shoulders over your hips, but push that imaginary beach ball forward so you feel your shoulder blades come off your back, and then bring your arms up overhead. And just feel how much taller, how much higher you can reach. And then exhale and just circle your arms out and down. How about if we do a few sun breaths like that? So we want to bring our arms forward and really bring those shoulder blades off the back here. And then bring your arms up, and then exhale out and down. A couple more times we'll go forward, reaching the fingertips as far forward and up as you can, and then exhaling it out and down. Let's do one more. All right, this time we'll add a forward fold. So you'll reach forward again, get those shoulder blades off the back, reach up. And then as you exhale, circle your arms out and down, soften the bend in your knees, and fold in half. Now bow your head here. It might even feel good to shake your head yes or no a couple of times. And notice how when you're standing and folding upside down like this, your legs are still supporting you. You just fell in half, right? You just folded in half, and your legs are still supporting you. Your feet are still rooted to the ground. Gently sway your trunk side to side. You can imagine that you're just drawing little semicircles on the ground around your feet with your fingertips. So the whole upper body swaying. And again, we get to notice how our legs are still supporting us. All this strength, all this groundedness. Good. And then we'll just come back to center. Use your next inhale to come up halfway. Let's all bring our fingertips onto the shins. That brings our shoulders up even with our hips. And then we can lengthen through the spine by lifting the hips up and bringing the crown of the head forward, Ardha Uttanasana. Let's take another breath here. And then as you exhale, go back into your forward fold. You put your fingertips on the floor and just step your left foot back. Walk your hands back so they're alongside your right foot. If you've got blocks, you could certainly recruit some stilts for your hands, right? And put them alongside your ankle there. Otherwise, we're going to alternate between this kind of high crescent lunge and a variation of pyramid pose. So we want to make sure that our feet are far enough apart that we feel really extended. We want to make sure that the right knee is over the right ankle, not because we're looking for perfection, but this loads up the energy in the body a little bit more efficiently. And then we're going to use our inhale to lift the hips up like your hips are blossoming. Lift your hips up and press your left heel back and down. It probably won't come to the ground because we've got our legs so far apart. And then we're going to use our next our next exhale to sink into our lunge again. You could even tap your left knee on the floor if that feels good. But when you come into your lunge, I want you lifting your head and chest up. And then as you inhale and come into your modified pyramid, bow your head down towards your right leg. So exhale into your lunge and inhale like balloons are on your hips, lifting them up, inflating. Exhale into your lunge. Inhale into your modified pyramid. Let's do one more flow like that. Good. Now, next time you come into your lunge, I want you to gradually work your hands on up to your right knee and then hands on the hips. And then here we're going to soften the bend in that back knee so that we can work on lifting the front rim of the pelvis or your waistband up towards the ceiling. So it might feel a little awkward, but this is going to give us a little bit more of a deep stretch in this left hip flexor area. So you're actually lengthening your tailbone down, lifting your ribs and waistband up. And then if you're comfortable here, bring your arms up over your shoulders, just like we were doing before, where we're reaching the fingertips forward and up. Now we're going to work our back muscles a little bit here. So we've got that hip flexor stretching, and then we're going to exhale and pull the elbows down. And as you bring your elbows into sort of a nice right angle bend, I want you to imagine that someone's pushing up on your elbows. So there's this imaginary resistance. Good. And then use your next inhale to lift up. As you exhale, bring your hands down. And then just step your right foot back next to your left foot. Find plank pose. Spread your fingers. Bring your shoulders over your wrists. Spike your heels back, hips just a little lower than your shoulders. And then with your arms fully extended here, melt your chest down towards the floor just a little bit. You're going to feel your shoulder blades come into your upper back. And then push away from the floor, just like we were doing with our imaginary beach ball. Push away from the floor so your shoulder blades come off your back. Hold that and lift your hips into downward facing dog. So we've got the shoulder blades nice and broad. We're broadening the shoulders. And if this feels unstable to you, you can lift your elbows a little bit, kind of feeling like you're internally rotating the upper arms. Push more into your thumbs and index fingers. Don't overdo that, though, because then you'll get a little pinchiness there. Feel free to pedal your feet while you're here. Keep extending through those arms, lifting the hips as high as you can. Downward facing dog. Good. Now take your gaze forward. Slow walk your feet to the front of the mat. We'll use our inhale to come up halfway again, fingertips on the shins. We'll go right into another forward fold as we exhale. Put your hands on the floor or use your blocks again. This time step your right foot back. So we're back in that high lunge. Take a moment to get your feet set pretty far apart, right? We still want the left knee over the left ankle. Again, hands can be on blocks or the floor. And then we're going to, again, use our inhale to lift the hips up. So the hips are like balloons. We're pressing the right heel back and we're bowing over that left leg. Exhale into your lunge. And again, you can always tap your right knee down if you want. Inhale, modified pyramid, pressing that right heel back, bowing. Exhale into your lunge. Try to lift your head and chest up a little bit as you lower that right knee. Inhale into the pyramid. Exhale into your lunge. Lift your head and heart. Couple more, just like that. Really getting stretchy in our hamstrings and our hip flexors. It's going to make our backs feel so much better. Good. Now, next time you're in your lunge, get your sea legs, lift your navel towards your spine, maybe transition your hands up to that left knee, and then eventually to your hips. So you can find your hip points, that's gonna help. We wanna soften that back knee just a little bit so we're not touching down completely. And then we're trying to lift these front hip points or waistband or front rim of the pelvis, whatever you can feel, up towards your ribs. Lift your ribs up a little bit, lift that waistband up, and then lengthen your tailbone down. You're going to feel a little bit more of a stretch in that main hip flexor in the front of that right thigh, right? And then when you're ready, hold that imaginary beach ball, bring it forward and up. And then once again, turn your palms forward, bend your elbows into a goalpost shape, but don't just bend the elbows. I want you to imagine someone's trying to prevent you from bending your elbows, and you're pushing against that imaginary resistance, lifting the chest, maybe pushing the elbows and hands back just a little bit more. Back core working for you here. Good. Now inhale, arms up. Exhale, hands down. Step your left foot back next to your right foot, and you're back in your plank pose. Let's floss the shoulders one more time here. So really pressing back into your heels, shoulders over the wrists. You're lengthening your tailbone, so the core is pretty stable here. And then all you're doing is sinking your chest towards the ground. Keeping your arms fully extended, you feel your shoulder blades retract on the back, right? You feel them coming together. Then push away from the floor, just like you're pushing that beach ball out. Shoulder blades come away from the middle of the back. Then keep those shoulders as they are. Push your hips up and back for your downward facing dog. And again, if this feels a little unstable, we can always adjust. Maybe we need a little more internal rotation. Not a lot, maybe just a little. Take a few breaths here. Feel free to, again, to pedal your feet or do whatever you need to do. Good. We're just going to take one more breath. And then how about from our downward facing dog? Take the right leg up into the air like a three-legged dog. Right? Lunge your right foot between your hands. And then walk both hands down the left edge of your mat, pivoting your left heel down and eventually turning your right toes in the same direction as your left foot. So we're in a wide-legged forward bend here. I've been doing a lot more wide-legged forward bends this time of year because they're more spacious, right? They just feel so yummy. So let's do a few twists while we're here. We're in basically the Ardha or half version of Prostrate Padottanasana. Outer edges of the feet parallel with the short edges of the mat. Hands are under your shoulders. Hips are in between your ankles. Put your right hand on the floor right under your nose. And then circle your left arm out and up. I'm not going to get picky about what the hips are doing here. If you want to bend into your right knee a little bit, bend into your right knee. Twist your rib cage. Take a breath in and out here. These twists also help us to wring out some of that excess heaviness from the winter, right? And then we'll exhale, bring the left hand down, put it where the right hand was. Inhale, take your right arm out and up. And again, if you want to soften the bend in that left knee a little bit, let the hips join the spine in the rotation, that's fine. One more breath here. Exhale, bring that right hand down. Now we'll reposition the hands so they're about even with the shoulders. And then just alternate bending your knees a few times. And then getting a little bit more into the inner thighs, the inner groins. Now, as you're bending your knees, as you're shifting your weight side to side, push your hips back a little bit, like there's a bench at the back edge of your mat, and you're trying to land your tush on that. Good. Now, next time you bend into your right knee, walk your hands to the left. Now, you can leave your right hand on the floor and then bring your left arm back out and up. So it's kind of a really deep and kind of stretchy twist, right? Or you could just bring your left hand onto your left hip and rotate, or you can just keep both hands on the floor. That's fine too. So find a version that works for you. And then we'll exhale that left hand back to the floor, walk the hands back to center, extend both legs again, and now bend into your left knee, but walk your hands over to the right. This time, left hand could stay on the floor. Right hand could come onto the right hip. You could just point that right elbow up or extend that right arm up, maybe sinking into that left hip a little bit more. Again, shoot your hips back just slightly, or right hand could just stay on the floor. Lots of variations. Find one that fits this side of your body. And then we'll bring that right hand back to the floor. Walk both hands back to the center. And then let's come into that full version of Prasarita Padottanasana. Walk your hands back in between your feet. Bow your head. Bring the hips in between the ankles here. So here we don't want the booty sinking back towards that back edge. We want to try to position it right in between the ankles. Bowing, breathing. Going upside down like this too brings a lot of extra fresh blood flow to the sinuses. It's, allergy season, so sometimes this can help just ward off any secondary infections that might happen when our histamine response is elevated. Taking some nice easy breaths here, or maybe you're kind of stuffy when you're here. We'll get ourselves upright in a few breaths. Good, now walking your hands forward until they're underneath your shoulders again, and then just pivot your heels in so your toes point towards the corners of the mat. Soften the bend in your knees. One at a time, transition your hands up onto your thighs. So we're in our goddess legs, right? Sinking the hips down, pushing the knees out so they're angled towards the centers of the feet. Bring your shoulders over your hips as best you can. So maybe that means that the bend in the knees is not as deep, right? And then let's bring those arms out parallel to the ground. Bend your elbows again. All right, this time we're going to come into an eagle pose. So cross your right arm over your left arm. Yeah, if you need to come out of your goddess legs, you can. Otherwise, keep sinking down. Lift your elbows up and now try to push your elbows forward, getting those shoulder blades off the back again. Elbows are up and moving forward. One more breath here. Good, now unwrap your arms, bring them back into that goalpost shape, kind of push back a little bit. This time left arm over right for our eagle arms. Try to keep your wrists nice and straight, backs of the hands can touch, palms could come together. Elbows are up and forward. So you feel those shoulder blades come off the back again. One more breath here. Maybe sink down just a little bit more into your goddess legs. Inhale, unwrap your arms. And then let's stretch up into a starfish pose. Or maybe we think of this as like, aren't there flowers that look like stars too? Awesome. All right, how about a little triangle action from here? So let's pivot both feet sort of to the right, and then just hinge from your right hip crease, bringing your arms straight out from your shoulders. Right arm sort of dangles under the right shoulder, left arm's over the left shoulder. We've got a lot of length on the right side of the body. You're actually trying to tip your torso up towards the sky. Move your hips forward, shoulders back. Legs don't have to be perfectly straight, but feel the muscles hugging those leg bones. Gaze wherever it's comfortable. All right, bring both arms overhead like you're holding that beach ball again. Inhale up. All right, let's just redirect our feet to the left. Come into our triangle pose. So left arm comes under the left shoulder, right arm over the right shoulder. Lots of length on both sides of the body, right? And the legs are really strong here, just like they were in that first forward fold we did. We're moving the hips forward, moving the shoulders back. Try to tip your chest skyward, like it's seeking the sun, right? The heart is seeking the sun. All right, bring both arms overhead. Squeeze that imaginary beach ball and come on up. Ooh, all right, turn both feet back towards the long edge of your mat. Circle your arms out and down. Awesome, let's just hop to the center of the mat and then work our way back up to the front of the mat. All right, so let's do a little bit of flow. We've got a few more minutes. I'm gonna get us down on the floor and do one of my favorite poses, this time of year especially. So let's go ahead and let's bring the arms forward and up again. I just love that because the shoulders love it so much. And then we'll exhale and fold in half. Inhaling halfway up, hands to shins. I know a lot of us can leave our fingertips on the floor, right? But feel all that length when we bring the fingertips to the shins. Exhale, fold in half. Let's step back into our plank again. This time, let's go ahead and lower ourselves down. Come onto your belly. And then just flatten the tops of the feet on the floor. Let's go ahead and slide the hands forward so our elbows are about even with our shoulders. You may want to slither back a little bit so hands are on the mat. And then let's lace our fingers together. All right, so I want to do a little bit of core, and then we're going to come into my favorite pose that'll use our core too. So you probably know what's coming, right? We're on our forearms. We're like in a little bit of a sphinx pose, broadening across the chest, right? We're pushing the pubic bone down, so we're activating those glutes and the back muscles, back core, right? So a little bit of back core. And now curl your toes under, lift your knees and hips, and you're in a forearm plank. Even if you want, you can kind of soften the chest down again and then push away. Yeah, so really try to get those shoulder blades off the back. Push them out. Yeah, push down into those forearms. Ooh, it activates the core a lot more too. Press back into those heels. Keep the hips just a little lower than the shoulders, just a little lower. Keep pushing down into those forearms. 2 more breaths. Good, bring your hips and thighs down. Awesome. Let's bring our fingertips off the mat, about even with the shoulders. Just doing a wide cobra here. So bring your chin down to start out with. Point your elbows towards the sky. Push your pubic bone down again. Lift your head and heart. Keep your hips down. So whatever version works for you. Shoulders now moving onto the back. So we're using this cobra to open up the chest. 2 more breaths. And then release back down. Bring your hands under your shoulders. Lift yourself up to all fours. Let's just come into a wide-legged version of our child's pose. Sink your hips back, melt your belly and your chest down in between your thighs. Reach your hands forward, just getting nice and melty. I'm just taking a brief rest here. Good. Now work your way back up to all fours, lifting your hips away from your heels. And then you can just reposition your knees at the center of the mat. Swing your feet out from behind. And let's come into a seated position where we can feel our sitting bones, which for most of us means the feet are not going to be right up next to our hips, right? So I think sometimes when we do Baddha Konasana or bound angle pose, a lot of people make the mistake of having their feet so close that they end up sort of, hunched over. Again, we want lots of space, right? We want to grow and blossom. So feet out a little bit. You're going to feel your sitting bones on the floor. Splay the knees apart. Allow your legs to make a nice big diamond, right? Who doesn't like a nice big diamond? And then we're going to start to circle around. So Sufi circles clockwise first. So I'm going to the left, forward, to the right, and back around. I think these feel better than cats and cows most of the time. They just feel so yummy for the back, for the side back, for the hips, inner hips, the outer hips. And we can coordinate the movement with our breath, using an inhale to go forward, using the exhale to come back. Let's go one more time in this clockwise motion. And then let's reverse the direction. So we're going to the right, forward, and then to the left and back up. Let your breath guide this flow. All right, so let's go one more time around counterclockwise. And then once we're back to center, we're going to lean out straight over our big diamond and then scoop your arms underneath your legs. You could also just hold onto your calves with your hands too. And then we're going to rock back, picking our feet up off the floor, keeping our heels together. Toes are going to blossom out. You might even be able to snuggle your arms underneath your legs a little bit more for our lotus flower, right? A little bit of a balance challenge. So you might want to check your surroundings, make sure there's nothing behind you you're going to bump into If you do happen to roll back, tuck your chin towards your chest so you don't roll on your neck. Little bit of core work here. So we want to try to work our way a little closer to those sitting bones. Lift your chest, really blossoming. I love the sort of symbolism of the lotus flower that starts down in the dirtiest, muddiest muck of the pond, right? And then it makes this little bud and it starts to travel up through all the dirty water until it gets to the surface where the sun hits it and it blooms. So then whether they say with no mud, there would be no lotus. No mud, no lotus, right? So we all can relate to that. One more breath. Awesome. Now slowly release. Maybe just do 1 foot down at a time. All right, one more wide-legged forward bend. Stretch your legs out into a straddle. This is where blocks might come in handy. You could always have a block out in front of your hips to add height to the floor. I find some of my students with really tight hamstrings, this is their pose, right? Hands behind the back, getting some extension. And then I think too, we sometimes make the mistake of pushing the feet out away from us. Push your heels down, then like you're trying to pull the heels back towards your hips. It's really going to activate the hamstrings a little bit while you're stretching them. And it really keeps us aware of that really tender, groin area that we don't want to, compromise, right? So if you choose to come forward, do it very slowly. Sort of tiptoe your way in, getting right up to that edge, not bouncing past it, not pushing past it, not pulling past it. I always caution people, don't do this in a partner yoga class. Don't offer it in a partner yoga class. This is just my yoga teacher advice. I've seen really experienced yoga teachers get injured by being pulled into this pose because the other person doesn't know where your threshold is, right? They don't know what your body's feeling. I'll take a couple more breaths here. These wide-legged forward bends again, soothing our nervous system, but also creating a lot of spaciousness in our bodies. Let's slowly work our hands back up towards the hips, or just get ourselves back up to vertical. Scoop your hands under your thighs, help your knees to bend. Come into a nice, comfortable seated position. So we've done sort of an uplifting, energizing practice. So I'm going to say, let's skip the Shavasana, but if you want to do Shavasana after we leave, you can. But let's just sit and do a real brief meditation together. Maybe you roll your shoulders, maybe you snuggle your hips into the ground a little bit more. Maybe you choose to cradle your one hand in the other in your lap. Or maybe you just want to do some grounding work with your fingertips plugged into the floor. This is your time. So pick something that feels good for you. Close your eyes. Call to mind or recollect your intention, your resolution for this new year. Feeling its vibration throughout your whole body. Allow your breath to keep you in your body for just another few moments. And that doesn't mean that your mind's not already starting to wander off. But when you become aware of it, that's like a magic moment, isn't it? You can bring your attention back to your body sitting, your body breathing. There might even be other stuff that grounds you in this moment. Sounds, birds singing outside your home. Allow the sound from the singing bowl to just gently bring you out of your meditation on your resolution, on all of that budding, buzzing spring energy that you have endeavored to cultivate through this yoga practice. Now please join me with your hands at your heart. And may this practice go with you as you step off your mat. May you continue to generate and cultivate the qualities of this beautiful spring season and share what you can with those around you. Thank you so much for sharing in this practice with me. Namaste.